And then it will be like this format where it's audience members' questions. That is the focus of that one. So that's the second one, June 14th. The third one is August or early September is the budget town hall. After the budget is put together, community members can come and comment and ask questions on the proposed budget for 2026. And then the last town hall is the AGM, which is Saturday, October 25th. So there'll be more information coming out as we get closer to those dates. So on the next page of our PowerPoint, we have the agenda. So we blasted through the meet and greet. And next will be introductions and things that the board has been working on. We're going to make a bit of a switch in the agenda. We're going to have questions from the audience next, but because we only got 2 questions and 1 comment via email, we're going to do those first and cover them off. There's also kind of a tie-in for one of the questions with the board activity, so kind of makes a bit more sense to reorganize it. All right. So introductions. My name is Debbie Faughand, and I'm the Semiahmoo Resort Association HOA board president. And then in the room here, second from the end in this row is April Hashimoto. She's the vice president and chair of the governance committee. And then next is Tom McDaniel. He's one of the officers as well. He is the secretary. Then David Moon. He's it's missing here that he's both on the ASC and he's chair of the maintenance committee. Celia Albertstein. She is a safety and security committee chair. And then here's Karen Brennan. He's a communications committee chair. And then staff, Aaron Hassan, he's the general manager of the SRA staff. And it looks like Gloria was hiding there. There she's still hiding. and then in front of the camera, there is Elisa Platten, and she's one of the administrative staff. And we have guests in the audience, new to our Semiahmoo community is Whatcom Fire District 21 Commissioner Craig Anthony. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So people who are not here today, Rod Nib, he's treasurer and the finance committee chair. Carrie Clevenger, he's the ASC board liaison and a committee member. And Andrew Tennis, he's on the Semiahmoo Resort Association board, and he represents the Semiahmoo Resort itself. And let's see, then I believe that leaves us with the Environment Committee Chair, Mohammed Tazem. Unfortunately, he had to resign for health reasons, so he's not here today. All right, so moving on in our PowerPoint to board activities we're actively working on. So the SRA stairs at Boundary Ridge. In September of last year, the board proposed a special assessment, and that went on the October 2024 ballot, and it was passed by the community. And in February this year, with our first half year collection of our regular dues assessment, we also collected for that special assessment. And so what's ongoing right now is that Aaron is working with engineering and contractors to reevaluate the structure there. And also updating bids and timelines. So we're actively working on that. So next page is board activities. Because of the vacancy on the board, we've notified the election committee to go through the process of finding us someone to appoint to the board. That's a process. So people can still apply if they would like to be on the board. And so reserve study is the next bullet on the board activity. So every year as part of the budgeting process, the reserve funds are evaluated. And we look at if we need to increase the budget or the budget. But every periodically by Washington state law, we need to have a visit by a firm that specializes in reserve studies. And that's happening in 2025. And Aaron again is working with the company to do that. So that will be input to 2026 budget and beyond. Another ongoing activity is the evaluation of options for the Drayton Hillside recreational easement road, and priority is to be able to clean up the road and to be able to access it from beginning to end. So our maintenance committee is actively working on that, and probably in the next month or so we have some updates on track and plans to go forward. All right, so the lastly but not least is the wildfire mitigation and grant applications. So now I'm going to pivot to the questions that we received via email because it ties into that bullet. So we're gonna kind of combine it. And but I'm gonna, so we'll put a bookmark on the wildfire stuff. And I'll cover off the other things that were sent via email because it's gonna be very quick. I'm gonna read these. So there's from Jim and Lori Cox in St. Andrews Green 3. Jim says, Lori and I would like to express our appreciation for the newly painted gates. They look wonderful. So this year, the color has been changed from white to green. And it looks like the maintenance team is nearly done with repainting.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds, yeah.
They look great.
Okay. Great, yeah. Oh, great. So then there was a question about what's being considered. Oh, this is Joseph Forde, F-O-R-D-E from St. Andrews Green 3. And he says he's new to SRA activities and issues. Please summarize what is being considered for Drayton Hillside recreational easement. And so I've covered off on that already. And then lastly, this last one ties into the wildfires. And it's more verbose in the question itself. And we're going to be kind of verbose in our responses. So, so Jose Fernandez, and I won't read his address. He says, I'm a new homeowner and I'm concerned about the future cost of insurance. And I'll just stop there and say that all of this is from Jose's perspective and opinion, and we're not saying the truth or not truth about it. It's some of the statements. But I'll go on. Jose continues to say, I was informed that a few years ago, the local fire department that was near us, near the SRA office, was allowed to close. Our area is no longer considered by insurance companies to have nearby fire protection, and the entire SRA has been downgraded dramatically by insurance companies. Insurance agents can provide the specific details on the downgrade. This downgrade now assumes that our homes will burn before the fire department can arrive due to proximity, and the cost of insurance will eventually double according to agents I spoke to, just a matter of time. The 900+ homeowners of the SRA pay a large amount of property taxes and might be the biggest consumer property taxpayer in Blaine. The question follows, can the SRA lobby to once again have local fire protection services that protect our homes, investments, and also prevent the property taxes and don't receive, let me go back on that one. Also prevents the cost of policies from doubling. Together, we likely pay over 10 million in annual property taxes and don't receive in return adequate fire protection. This also might be the topic for future meetings as well. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying something in response to this, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Delia, who on safety and security has been very involved with fire mitigation and with educating the community about the recent proposal on the ballot for levy lift. And I'll say that we can't, as the SRA, we can't take a political stand and tell people how to vote. We don't do that. But we can educate and give as much good information as possible. And it's great, Commissioner Anthony, that you're here, and do feel free to correct us and add what you can after doing and talk about this topic. So I'm gonna say one thing about the question is that there's another open fire station, station 63, I think, that is on this side of the railroad tracks and not too far away from us. There's another one on the other side of the railroad tracks that I believe also can service us, our area. And so I'm going to say also that there are a variety of reasons for insurance rate increases that don't have to do with the proximity of the fire station. And one of them, we were told by our insurance company year or so prior to August 2022 that our rates would be increasing because there was a state law that said that they could no longer use credit ratings in underwriting of insurance rates. Okay, so yeah, we had USAA and they wrote to us and said that, and our rates did go up rather dramatically after that. That was the reason they provided. Now, a judge, why I mentioned August 2022 is because a judge in August 2022 reversed that and said that insurance companies may use credit ratings and doing the underwriting for insurance prices. But I think we didn't get a letter after that saying that they've reduced our rates. So once those things go up, they can also come down. So another thing that affects insurance rates are rising natural disasters, and Delia also has a lot of work experience in insurance, and she gave me some numbers for this piece. I'll read this. Rising natural disasters led to a 40% increase in reinsurance rates in 2023, which was reflected in our 2024 premium increases. And we're likely to see this again with recent events like Hurricane Helene and the LA wildfires. Okay, And so, Delia is going to continue to address the answer to that question. And she's also going to pick up on wildfire mitigation and grant applications. You're welcome.
Bringing this over here, because last time I got dry mouth and I needed my water. So I'm gonna put my water down right here. Okay, so I started with the board last year. And my first choice was to chair the Safety and Security Committee. Boy, did I learn a lot. And actually late 2023, early 2024, Fire District 21 issued a news release saying that they were considering putting a levy lid lift initiative on the August primary ballot in 2024. And I went, well, what the heck is a levy lid lift? I didn't know. So our committee invited Fire Chief Vanderveen and two of the fire commissioners, Rick Berg, who lives here in Semiahmoo, and also Bruce Ansel, who is the chair of the Board of Commissioners.
Could you speak up, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, to the SRA Center to speak, which they did in February. We invited the community to also join in his presentation. And the SRA Center took out the conference table and set up theater type seating like this, and the room was almost full. So a half-hour presentation turned into an hour and a half conversation that was very educational. So one of the things that I did not know, and this is my 27th year of living here, in Semiahmoo, is that our fire district is funded solely by property taxes. They receive no funding from the state, no funding from the county. And so in order for them to receive revenue, they have to have a levy that is a levy rate per 1,000 of assessed property value that is approved by the voters of the district. Okay, so they're in one sense, it's good. They are directly responsible to us and not to Olympia. But on the other hand, we're their sole source of funding. I did not know that. Furthermore, that levy rate is capped in terms of an annual increase by 1% by state statute, 1% per year by state statute. So that means if the population growth increases by 5%, they're still capped at 1%. If inflation goes up 3%, they're still capped at 1%. So what happens is that levy rate per 1,000, as our property values increase, the rate decreases because they have to meet that 1% cap. Okay. So they were finding themselves in a financial situation that was making it difficult for them to do things like man the Semiahmoo fire station. And so they were coming to us as voters, and I've got some of my notes from that presentation. We did videotape this presentation. We put it on the YouTube channel of our page of the SRA website. Because it's an hour and a half long, we also created summary notes of the presentation, which we posted on the website. We also distributed these summary notes at the town hall, the June town hall. And I'm going to just reference some of these notes. So at that time, in 2024, our assessed value, our levy rate was 76 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value. By comparison, Ferndale's was $1.19 per 1,000. Bellingham was $1.30 per 1,000. So you can see the disparity, in terms of the funding level, and for both Ferndale and Bellingham, of course, are much closer to the hospital in terms of, commute times, and 71% of their responses are for EMS. So, so there was a significant need for us to take a look at this. one of the things that he said in his presentation, this is Chief Vanderveen, he said home insurance costs are tied to the viability and vitality of the local fire districts. Be prepared for continuing and possible dramatic insurance cost increases if the upcoming levy is not increased. The cost of insurance will likely outstrip the proposed increase in levy increase. And that seems to be coming true. So, as Debbie said, the SRA board cannot lobby because that would be like lobbying the taxpayers, right? Lobbying our residents and telling them how to vote. We can't do that. So what we tried to do is just bring as much information to the community as we could. We did increase voter participation. On July 17th, which was the date that the ballots were mailed, we sent an SRA this week notification that said, as a reminder, this initiative will be on the ballot when you receive the ballot in a few days. And we gave links in the SRA this week. One was to a video that was of the Station 63, which is the Birch Bay London Road Station, and the condition that it's in. And then the other was to the district's website for more information on the levy limit. But what had that passed? What would have been done is the Station 62, which is the Semiahmoo Parkway Station, would have been opened and manned. They're gonna purchase an additional EMS vehicle. And it would be manned with an EMS vehicle on a 24/7 basis. That would be step one. Step two was going to be to build that station out to a 3-bay unit. And then reposition staff from Station 63 to Station 62 in Semiahmoo and equipment so that it became a fully functioning fire station. So that Station 63 on Birch Bay London Road, which is falling apart, could be torn down and rebuilt. So that eventually we would have 2 fully functioning fire stations. One at Birch Bay London Road, one in Semiahmoo on this side of the track, and then of course the one over in East Blaine over on Odell Road. That initiative unfortunately didn't pass. He said the reason, this is also from the fire chief, he said younger and less dense populations east of I-5 have historically defeated this levy, while SRA residents have demonstrated a strong support for its passage. However, lower voter turnout in SRA has resulted in its failure to offset the votes east of I-5 that have historically voted to turn it down. And now here is replying to 2021, the initiative that was on the ballot in 2021. 30% of us voted to approve that initiative. Now, in 2024, 60% of us voted to approve that initiative, but it still wasn't enough to overcome the east side or the part of the county that's east of I-5. So what that says to us is that we need to continue providing information helped, but we need to continue to provide information. The Insecurity Committee needs to continue to provide information, work with the fire commissioners, and Commissioner Anthony has agreed to attend our quarterly safety and security meetings. He'll be attending the one on April 7th to help keep us apprised of what are the needs of the district, what can we as a community do to, how do we communicate that information to our community, but also a big part of the problem lies in Olympia, right? With this 1% cap. I mean, like, how crazy is that? So, working with the commissioners to ask, well, what do they advise Olympia to do? Is there an alternative taxing situation that is working in best practices in other parts of the country, where it's not all 100% funded by property tax? So we're trying to identify what are potential solutions, because this year in other districts is that this year, so here they are, beginning of this year, they're stuck at a 1% increase in budget. Levy doesn't pass. And so what do? When there were $5.7 million in reserves that the district had, they made a decision to transfer $1.6 million to the operating budget. Just to fund support services as they are right now. That doesn't include opening up the Simeon station, just as they are right now. So you can see how that's not sustainable. So what we can do as a safety and security committee is engage with the commissioners, understand how we can support either by lobbying our state legislatures for changes that maybe they recommend in terms of our taxing structure. But also being ready because they're gonna have to come back to us in 2026 and ask again for a levy increase. So that's what we'll do. That's a long answer, but some of us are new. And so I wanted to make sure that everybody had the full background, because I didn't know any of this until last year. I mean, I was just fat, dumb, and happy, you know, in my semi-annual bubble. So, yeah,
Can I just say, and one thing as far as the funding source, that, the Whatcom County Jail was like, it was always on the ballot. And it always failed as a property tax increase. And when they changed it to the sales tax increase, it passed. So the different funding
Right.
source might
Right.
be real, very key.
right. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going in chronological order. At the, one of the town halls last year, several people, residents expressed concern about, wildfire hazard in Semiahmoo. And, so our committee, contacted, the chief referred us to Whatcom Conservation District. And Whatcom Conservation District came out, sent a representative out to, inspect our buffer areas to see what we could do to mitigate wildfire risk in those areas. And a written report was prepared for us, which appeared on the, agenda of the November 2024 board meeting, but it was like a week before Thanksgiving and then we got the holidays. So we just said, okay, we're gonna table this till 2025. So in January of this year, the board, approved a joint working group consisting of volunteers from 4 different committees. But once we read the report, safety and security said, this is beyond us. We need expertise beyond our committee. So the working group consists of volunteers from safety and security, environmental, maintenance, and the ASC to come together and figure out what can we do as a community to mitigate risk in our buffer areas. Our first meeting was Valentine's Day, February 14th. And Robert Walters came out and met with their group. And he said the most important thing that you can do is to educate individual homeowners about what they can do to do home hardening. That point, home hardening within the home and within 100-foot radius of your home. What are the things that you can do to make your home more resilient to wildfire if there is an event that occurs? That's step one. And so that's why we invited him to the June 14th meeting when our summer residents are back, so that he can give us a presentation about what we can do with individual homeowners. Second step is what can we do in the buffer areas? And you know, it's a combination of things because we have to not only look at wildfire, but we have to look at the whole ecosystem. We have to make sure that we're protecting wildlife habitat, that we're protecting soil health and erosion concerns, that we're protecting buffer privacy, you know, from residents and like the parkway. So there's a lot to it, but we can start with things like identifying the standing dead trees that need to come down in our buffer areas. So we have engaged a USA Firewise certified arborist to inspect the buffer areas, and he's identified 65 trees that can need to come down because they're either dead or they're significantly diseased enough that they should come down. We also have to do ground fuel mitigation, so things like the dead trees that have fallen over and the branches that have fallen over the years, you know, I lived here 27 years ago, those buffer areas did not look like they look now. Over the years, the windstorms and snow and ice storms and stuff has come down and down and down. And our community has always had a leave everything natural kind of mentality. But as a result, now we have kind of a mess. And we don't have the funds in our budget to address the things that we need to do because they didn't come up before the October vote. So one of the things that we were very fortunate to learn is that on that morning, on Valentine's Day morning at 7:30 a.m., Washington Department of National Resources released availability of micro grants, community micro grants that can be used for wildfire mitigation and community-owned property that is within 100 feet of a private residence. Okay, and we have a lot of those properties. And they're $4,000 each, and there's 3 series, or well, at least 2. If there's funds left, there'll be a 3rd series. So potentially, we could possibly be approved for $12,000 with this grant money. Okay, so Debbie and Aaron and I worked really hard on because we had like a 2-week window to do this. And to figure out this grant application process, we did apply for SRA. We were approved for the first round. We also contacted the presidents of the neighborhood HOAs, where those communities also own forested land, okay? And we helped those NHOAs apply as well, and they were approved. So that's like $20,000 of found money that just came into our community to help with wildfire mitigation efforts. We're going to, we have applied just last week for round 2 for SRA. Haven't heard one way or the other is whether or not we're approved yet, and then we'll apply for round 3 as well. Yes, ma'am.
So the money for the grants, will those go toward helping cut down the trees that are diseased and?
Right, they're reimbursement grants, and there are certain activities that are eligible, but removal of standing dead wood, removal of ground fuels like dead trees and branches and stuff, that qualifies, but we have to pay for it first. We have to hire the specialist, the arborist to bring the trees down, and then we get reimbursed.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes. Yeah, awesome.
Should we
Do you have another one?
Sure, go ahead, if you have it out.
Jennifer, go ahead.
I don't know if Boundary Ridge got any money, whether they did or not. It seems to me that that fence along Semyon Parkway that is mostly on the ground is something that needs to be looked at because that's ground fuel. And it's been a problem for years and that definitely needs to be
Right.
fixed.
And that's not owned by Boundary Ridge. That's owned by 11 individual properties.
Well,
That's why-
whatever, that.
That's a different
ground
story.
fuel.
That's a different story for a different, we'll stay with this wildlife mitigation, but yes, that has been looked at. Yes, Boundary Ridge did apply for round 1 and it was approved because we own the parkway. The trees, as you're driving down the parkway that are on the left side, past the Boundary Ridge gate going down to the spec, we own all those trees. So were approved for round 1, we were denied for round 2. So I can't guarantee that SRA will be approved, but we have a lot more trees than SRA. Okay, so, the other thing that we did is we asked Robert, are there any other monies that might be available, grant monies that we're not aware of? And so we referred us to the Department of Forestry and that, because Firewise grant monies can only be used for the buffer areas that are within 100 feet of a home, but we have other buffer areas that are not. So that falls under the Department of Forestry. So next Wednesday, a forester is coming out to inspect our forested areas for wildfire mitigation recommendations, which will be similar to Whatcom County, Whatcom Conservation District, but also, for recommendations for improving general forest health. So the goal, long story short, is to take our buffer areas, make them safer, make them look like well-managed, maintained forests. And that's gonna make our community safer. It's also going to improve our property values, in my opinion. None of the work is, mitigation work will be done in the spring, because that's when the wildlife is nursing and nesting with their young. But it does have to be done by June 15th to receive the grant monies. So look for the work that will be done to be done like early June. We want to make it as close to 15th as possible to give the wildlife as much privacy and protection as we can for as long as we can. So that's what our committee has been working on for both helping the fire district and also with wildfire mitigation attempts here in Semiahmoo.
Good job.
Any questions?
Everybody, in this forum, and all of Semiahmoo can ask their insurance company to send somebody out to do a review of your property. We had one done by our insurance company, looking for hazards, if you will. That's something they're concerned about. And we had a lot of old growth cedars, and they had us, trim up. Have somebody come out and trim up, but you can't go up too far, because then the tree becomes
Top
too
heavy,
top heavy.
right.
That's a whole nother issue.
Right.
But everyone can do that, and they
Right.
don't, at least our company did not charge us for it. They came out and did a nice review and told us what we needed to do.
Right.
So that could be helpful.
Yes, that's helpful. And also Whatcom Conservation District will do the same thing, and you learned that from Robert in June. They'll come out free of charge and give you that same assessment of the things that you could do in your home, your yard, to help with wildfire mitigation. So, yeah, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Ted Metz from Stonehaven. I have a question regarding the lobbying. I disagree with the policy. Is that a state law that we can't go to the residents on safety and financial issues?
No, the reason that we couldn't lobby is because we would have to be lobbying you.
Oh.
We would have to say, Ted,
Yeah, but that's fine, but what
here's how you should vote. So we can't do that.
no, but
Because you're the sole source of taxpayer money.
I understand, but as a community, we're worried about fire safety, we're worried about, health safety. And we should be positively saying, vote for this,
Yeah.
because it's in the community interest. I don't know if you ever had a serious medical condition where you have to rely on the fire department to come to your house.
I have actually.
And so have I, and my point being is that I was lucky that Birch Bay was available. Had they been having to come from Odell,
Right.
I might not be standing here. So my point is that we should lobby for the residents because we're responsible to get it. I understand the taxation issue, but I went to that meeting on Odell Road where there was the fire commissioners and me. That's all that came. So we need to do a better job as a community, as a SRA,
That's
to
what,
get that done.
yeah, so Delia is working constantly.
I understand, but
And-
we
and,
can advertise in the paper, in our bulletin, say, vote for this, it's your safety.
I'd like to give Commissioner Anthony a chance to
Okay.
make some comments. If are there any other questions that we need to,
That's fine.
one more?
Yeah, so with with respect to the neighboring undeveloped lots. We passed and I guess reaffirmed the 3-foot clearance of the, I guess, blackberries. And my guess is if we have people come out and look at our risk for wildfire, that those properties that are maybe 3 foot means something in terms of wildfire, my guessing that is. But is there a connection between this 3 foot high and mitigating our risk?
What I would suggest is I would suggest having Watson Fire Conservation District come to your home.
Yeah.
And evaluate your risks and give you a written report.
You know, when you're talking 100 feet, we're in Drayton Hillside, you're talking all of our neighbors.
Yeah. And so, what he explained in our working group meeting is you want vertical distance between ground cover and the lower branches of a tree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so because fire ladders go upwards, fires move upwards. So that's what I'm saying, I can't speak to your specific situation, but he can.
Yeah.
And so, and I can give you the contact information I've got it here, in my phone, so I can give you the contact information and have them come out, they're happy to do so.
I mean, I'm sure there's things that I can do, but then we're talking about our neighbors who aren't really living here. You know, at this point, they're, I guess, investment properties or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe it's something you could share with your neighbor and work with them or work with the ASC,
Yeah,
you know, and see what you can
okay,
get done.
thank you.
Commissioner, would you like to make a few comments regarding our? Yes, please, yes, please.
And then get to see. Well, my name's Craig Anthony. I live along the 8th Fairway. I've lived here for 6 years, moved over from Port Ludlow. And like a lot of us feel the pressure of having a child as we get older, say you need to move closer. I'm not driving to Port Ludlow to visit you to take care of you if something goes wrong. So Jessica got us over here about 6 years ago. I've been minding my own business for 6 years. Occasionally, I'll see the placard on the gate that says special vacancy, want to be involved in the board. And for about 2 months, I'll do my research and go, those people are crazy being on that board. We never want to do that. So I went back to minding my own business. I got my levy, I'm a retired big city fire chief. So, sometimes when you do a job your whole life, it's not what you look forward to doing when you retire. So, minding my own business, the last levy lift campaign came out here a year ago. Voted yes. Not really understanding how Washington worked. It failed. Well, where I come from, those kind of things don't fail. So I go, well, I gotta understand this, kind of a spreadsheet data kind of guy. So I went into the county system, downloaded all the precinct information. And here we have Simiama voted 60%. But when you look at if you look on actually the easiest way to look at it, if you're in a voters precinct, where one boundary of that precinct touches the ocean, those folks voted yes. The rest of the district goes all the way across, goes around Linden, a couple miles past Linden, and then south down toward Bellingham. It's the largest fire district in the unincorporated areas of the county. So I go, this isn't right. How are these people ever gonna get by? So I did a little more research on the fire district. Didn't know about it. So I looked online and I saw all the paperwork, all the reports, ran across the insurance rating that had just come out. I go, oh my goodness. My rating went down for my house. And what that means to me, my insurance is probably gonna go up. So boy, that bothers me. Then I looked at some strategic plan and then I looked a little bit at what the heck's going on with the staffing levels. So I go, boy, I'm fired up now. So I took all my briefcases information. My neighbor's son, Matt, is on the fire board. So I got my neighbor to get me to go see his son on the commission, so I went across the street, took all my paperwork. And said, what the heck's going on? The best I can tell, you guys are gonna be out of business in 3 or 4 years. And my fears actually panned out. So I worked very hard. I became the one person sitting in the board meetings all last year. Fall last year. Learning more and more. And before I know it, I get a telephone call and said, hey, one of our board members has an illness issue and is resigning. Will you apply to be an interim board member? So I went through an interview process, and my wife, I'm sure, is very enthused now that I'm on fire. But what, I look at this as a homework. Who's gonna come and help me? The fire department really isn't, it's an EMS department. We used to be a fire department and we kind of grew a little bit in the EMS. Now it's the other way around. So right today, there's 3 people working at Birch Bay, and there's 3 folks on shift in Blaine. So 6 people. We won't deal with the other stations in the district because they're a long ways away. So if Sharon calls in 911 and she describes something that sounds like it might be a stroke, although I always do sound a little bit off center in my voice, but what's gonna happen is they're gonna send the closest aid car, which comes from Station 63. And they're gonna send the fire engine from 61, Blaine. It's a standard response, it's how it works in the entire county area. Now, if I just broke my leg and no bones sticking out, probably only the aid car from 63 is gonna come. The engine's not gonna come. And the reason the engine comes is for staffing. Now, as I sit in my house having my medical aid issue, the firefighters come through the front door. It doesn't matter if they came on an aid car or on a fire engine. Because they all have duplicate equipment. They're all certified by the state of Washington to be able to provide basic life support. But where the system then goes is in Washington. The majority of transports are made by basic life support standards. It's not the TV advanced life support system coming. Now, if they called, again, if I'm having a stroke, they're gonna start to my house, the aid unit from Birch Bay and the ALS unit. There's one in Ferndale and there's one in Linden. They're actually operated by the Bellingham Fire Department. So the impact on all of us is, being a fire chief, you kind of worry about the next emergency instead of the emergency you're dealing with. So I've been spending all my time on the money side of the fire department. And I can see why we have a problem. We're still living through that problem. The district didn't pay very well. So it became the training grounds for other fire departments, so huge turnover. And so there became a lot of vacancies. So now we're running on overtime, $13 million budget last year. $2 million of that 13 million went to overtime. Now, if you did do overtime, you're gonna have to pay somebody, and yeah, their benefit was 50%, and sure, there's about a 25% difference in cost of running overtime. But now I've started the last week being on a journey of trying to understand what does it mean to me and my family. So averages can be kind of deceiving. So I asked the fire chief and the station 63 folks, Birch Bay, work with me. And so I looked at from Thursday morning at 8, Friday morning at 8, just a day ago. How busy were we? How available are you gonna be to me when I need help? So that station had 13 calls in that 24 hours. 13. 7 of those calls were transports to the Bellingham Hospital. So 24 hours, those 3 folks were on the 8 car, whose only job is to take me to the hospital. The average, I'll have to admit, the average time for one of these transports, emergencies and transports, is about 80 minutes. So that 24-hour period, 9 hours, there's nobody home. So I need help, there's nobody home. So where's help gonna come from? Gonna come from Blaine, 8 card number 61. And I looked up the standard for the railroad and they go, hey, Grover, they can't block the passing for more than 10 minutes. Well,
No.
I think that must be an average too, but anyway, so I need help. On Thursday, 9 hours, they were taking people to the hospital. And that left 6 calls, don't know what they were EMS calls too, don't know what they were, but they didn't transport. So these other 6 calls that aren't in my 90 minutes. Usually don't do anything, don't even go to the grocery store for 45 minutes. So you can see it, well, I'm on my own. And that's how I look at this, I'm on my own. For half the day. And now they're coming from 61. How many minutes is that gonna add? Which I'm studying that. I'll be able to tell you here in another week or so, before the 70th. That for downtown Birch Bay. That's not a political statement, though. In downtown Birch Bay. If 63 comes, it's 2 miles. If 61 Blaine is responding without a train, how much longer is the person in Birch Bay gonna have to wait for somebody to get their help? So we have this system that isn't very efficient. But fair is fair, but the deal's the deal. So we've got 3 people at Birch Bay, 3 people in Blaine. I'm sorry to admit it, about 2 months ago. My alarm system and I forgot how it worked. And so my alarm's going off, and before I know it, I look out the window, here's the 8 car. And a fire engine. So I got 6 people in my front yard because I can't work my alarm system. That means that somebody's having a heart attack in Blaine, they're out of luck. And we're kind of an island. Got Canada on one side of us, the ocean on the other. Mutual aid works really well between the different districts here. So I was looking on my little app this morning. And in the lower end of our district, the ambulance, a regular aid car was coming out of Ferndale and help us out. So that all works well. So where are we going? Well, it's very difficult in the system. They got 3 people in Birch Bay. They've got a truck, which is really a fire engine, but with a big ladder telescoping that on top. They've got a truck, they got an aid car, and they got a fire engine, and there's 3 of them. And based on the call that comes into the command center, dispatch center here in Washington, they're gonna tell them, take the aid car, or take the engine, or take the truck. All computerized, works really well. But we got 3 folks that need to go on a call, and depending on the call, they're gonna take a different piece of apparatus. So the problem that we have in our current situation is when the aid car is busy for those 9 hours, there's nobody to get on the fire engine. That'd be nice if there was somebody to get on the fire engine, because again, they can provide the same level of service to me in my home as the aid car folks. Because they all have the same equipment, same training. So where's the district headed? We gotta fix the fundamental budget. And the reason that the district is behind the curve now, and it's a little foggy going into the future, is because we had so many vacancies out of the 50 folks that work in our stations. We have 4 stations. We had so many vacancies and couldn't hire people, we got behind the curve. Well, in the last bargaining unit, raise for the employees, brought them up to about middle of the other districts around us. So we kind of have overcome that problem. But it takes time to catch up. We have, in this year's budget, the amount of revenue coming in and how much it runs the fire department looked like it was off by $1.6 million. And we got about $5 or $6 million in reserves. So you can see that when the chief told me, yeah, we got 3 or 4 years and we're in deep trouble. And if you're a fire department like we are, and if you're in deep trouble, the money's in the people. So am I gonna wake up 3 years from now and go, well, instead of having 3 people in Birch Bay, I'm only gonna have 2? Yes.
And there are additional neighborhoods being built with more population coming in.
Well, that's kind of problematic, from the standpoint of, if you follow the city of Blaine, which I do. They're talking about doing a TIF, tax increment funding for financing. And so what that Washington law says is a city can go, we want to put in the sewer and water to the 400 or 500 homes, on our side of the bay. And in order to attract folks, we want to put that infrastructure in the ground. And so what that law allows is the city of Blaine to go, okay, we're gonna fund that. But the way we're gonna fund it is we're gonna borrow money. And the law's gonna let us say for the next 20 years or something, all the new homes taxes that would have come to the fire district, we're gonna take it for this. And so as growth occurs in our area, there's a potential that we won't get that revenue. The city's still just talking about it. That's why I go to city council meetings. But on the other hand, kind of the left-hand side of that story, it really played into station 62. Our station right here. That station never been spent. It goes back, I'm sure, to a developer agreement. Or maybe, just a feel good for all of us who are gonna buy lots and build homes. Look at this beautiful fire station.
The city made the developer build that.
Yep, and it went to the city. The city gave it to the fire district because the city got out of fire department business. Now it's a district. So that facility becomes ours. Never been able to staff it. We seem to be able to pay to repair the back walls and keeping a building healthy with saddle. I'll admit I'm the problem, because as soon as I got in from my old background, we go, well, let's figure out how many stranded assets we have in the fire district that we can sell. And try to buy a little more time before it kicks up into a problem. So this whole discussion of the board, well, let's sell 62. I'm guilty, I was wrong, I'm sorry. But now what we have learned is the city's thinking about moving its focus on development more over on the R side. And so it's just prudent to hold on to that station and continue to strive for this idea. We want to add EMS and 8-car there that's not associated with a fire engine. And so there'd be more flexibility in our system. So long before I came, that's what the levy was about. And that's why you don't see any more talk about the selling, doing away with Station 62. Plus, I can't imagine the grief we would all got, because if you toured the majority of the state of California and found old fire stations, I think that the German car repair shops have identified abandoned fire stations as the best place to open up. So I can't imagine driving down to the resort and seeing 45 MGs on the lawn of the old fire department. So fire department's a dead issue. I'm doing anything with that station, except holding on, hoping that we can figure out how to dig out of the hole and start staffing. The cost, it's amazing to me. When I became a firefighter, I had to show them I had a driver's license. I had to sell, go to HR, although they could call us something then. And then I went to my station. I was at my new station by 1 o'clock that afternoon. And the captain said, this is how you put a chalk block down, keep the engine from rolling, and just do what I tell you. Now, we hired 4 new firefighters the 1st of January. They will not be available to pull shifts till the 1st of May. Because it's a lot better than when I got into the business. They have to go to the basic academies, they have to go to EMS. We need to pull a month of double up shifts to learn the ropes, so we aren't to the end of the journey of trying to figure out how much money is gonna be left, if any, on the fire department. So we're still a work in progress. But I want you to appreciate the fact that there's only 6 of them out there ready to help us. And they already seem to have half their day taken up someplace else. So, on a rant, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
So we're gonna move on, questions from the audience, and then depending on the question, I think I'll suggest somebody who with the most knowledge to answer it. No, hang on just a second. Just before we do that, though, I want to thank the group, Tiffany, Yvonne, and Pam, for your work today, and for all the staff for being here on a Saturday, and the board members as well. So, yes, was there a question back there? Yes.
Yes,
You can state your name and your neighborhood. please.
okay, Ed Kramack from Boundary Ridge.
Okay,
My understanding, goes back to the staircase. My understanding was that last year you came up with the estimate to repair the stairs of $150,000. It went to the homeowners for approval, was approved, you've collected the funds. So, can you elaborate on why there seems to be no activity other than some further analysis going on what to do for these stairs, since I thought that had already gone through early last year. That's how you came up with 150,000. And so we're now 5 months later after it was approved, and there seems to be no activity. So can you explain what the delay is, please?
so, I'll start off by saying that the 150 quote things, it has to be updated. That was, that early on in the process when we were friendly for a long time. We were not even able to get quotes, but because we were our current director of maintenance has good connections in the community, used to work for the city of Plain in maintenance. We were able to actually get quotes. So there's been a bit of time between when we actually got the quote and, got the voting done and all of that. But I'm going to, Aaron, as you've been working on this, if you have more details, so share.
Well, first off, the timing of the repairs can't be when it's pouring rain, when it's snowing, anything like that doesn't work well in that. Guys, our initial timeline, when we started and knew that the approval was coming through with the special assessment, was gonna be the beginning of spring, so we're pretty close to that now. And that timeline is still sitting there. We had an engineer come out and take a look, make sure that there was no other structural damage we needed to be aware of. We've had our contractor who we've been out there a couple times to see what he needs to do, and his timeline. So we're working both of those together and still working that timeline, which could be, we're talking maybe the end of April, beginning of May for a start timeline. That's still fluid right at this moment, but that's our target and our goal right now. For a completion, again, we're in the contractor's hand. And I utilize other projects we've done in the Semiyama community that should have started when we wanted them to and they didn't. So we're hoping that possibly by the end of the summer that those stairs are done, but I hold my breath and push forward as we can.
Okay, thank you, because the way it was presented, it seemed like we were still going through some type of analysis.
Well, we are as well, because we could use
Things
current
will
events and such that have changed costs of anything and everything in our daily lives. And that is part of it. And we're hoping that our contractor will keep us in that 150 range because of those changes. And so that's part of the process as well. So, yeah, I want to make sure my due diligence is done for the board, for you as the community, and for the costs that we're going to be looking at to ensure that we can continue that on the 150, number one. And number two, again, with his business, we've put him on hold until we can do a weather timeline and we can make sure everything's dotted and crossed so that he can continue and start on that so that we don't interrupt his business as well. So we were being fit in. The original thought last year was he was gonna start and fit us in as he could. We've got him now to a point where we're working consistently once we get started.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Other questions out there? Yes, sir.
I'm Chris in Boundary Ridge. We talked a lot about this,
Sorry, what was it? Didn't catch your name?
Chris.
Chris?
We talked a lot about this very large fire district that we have, and when I looked at the individual precincts and how they voted for this increase in our levy. I realized the same thing that we just were talking about earlier. We in Semiahmoo would have approved this. So why do we have this gigantic fire district? Why can't we pay for our own, or at least break our district up into something that's more reasonable? Those people on the east side are never gonna vote for this. So,
Right.
at least, I don't want a big explanation or dissertation about it. I just thought I'd bring it up because it's
Right.
something that I think, I looked at and I said, I'm getting taxation without representation if I were over on the east side. Of course, I'm never gonna vote for it over there, but I want to hear, why do we have to have those people involved in our district? Because, if I need fire or EMS assistance, I don't expect people in Custer or Linden to pay for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris, for the purpose of the minutes, can we get your last name and neighborhood?
Yes, it's Wallace and Boundary Ridge.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just make one comment.
Thank you.
First. Yeah, Chris, it's a really good question, and then it's a thought that crossed my mind, both on the funding source could be different and the organization could be different, but
You asked not for a dissertation, so my answer to you is that it has nothing to do with us.
Say that again?
It has nothing to do with us. The board here is not gonna change the fire district.
Well, the follow-up obviously would be, well, who does? I mean, are we just gonna throw our hands up and say, well, we can't do anything?
I would suggest that you go find that answer and see if we can work together to figure it out.
How do we get such a large district anyway? What do people in Linden have anything to do with, me, calling it the fire department?
So Linden is carved out, it's its own city, it has its own fire district. And I don't have a big answer to your question, but I do monitor the YouTube videos of the commissioners meetings. I can't physically go there and be there, but I can view the videos. And I know that consolidation of the fire districts is one of the things that they're looking at. And studying, they're grappling, I mean, you and I are thinking about this, believe me, they've been thinking about it a lot longer. So they are looking at, and Commissioner Anthony might want to, if you want to add any comments.
Oh,
When I went down the
no. Go ahead.
same journey you did, I saw that in the law, it said we could have a use area. Because I'm used to other places, we could draw a circle around us, the lane. And be able to set a higher standard. And be that in charge of our own destiny. When I ask around the fire service representatives, they go, oh yeah, we never use that. So it's on my list of things to do just exactly what you asked. That if we want to decide in our area, we wanted a higher level of service or a mechanism to do that. So I'll continue to work on that and see if it's an option.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Because I agree that we mix kind of a stretch of a suburban area with a rural, very rural area. And they read about a levy lift that's gonna add a medic unit to Semiahmoo. I'm not gonna, that's why you see people out there, about 28% of the people or something. That vote for it.
well, we'll take someone.
Okay.
That, ma'am, you in the back.
Hi, Helen Worley in Prestwick Village.
Yeah.
Yes, I know we would do it, but what I'd like to know, and I'm sorry, I haven't checked it. What was the percentage of the vote in this precinct?
Well, over
60%.
60.
No, who voted, percentage of voters? Was the voter turnout? How many?
We have
Because
that
somebody made a
60%.
comment about a lot of people didn't vote.
I think it was in the 60 range. It was
Okay.
approved by somewhere in the 60s, but voter turnout was only about 60%.
Thank you, because that's one of the things that it's not telling people how to vote, but it's saying it's critical that you vote when this comes up. And I know you've tried, but maybe we're gonna have to go and knock on each other's doors and say, we have to vote. I'm not telling you how, but we have to vote. Because things aren't gonna change by 26 in terms of who's in control. That's just another suggestion, because you're doing a good job. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ed again, I just wanted to add, second that, comment, but also to ask maybe like Deidre, or in the next communication letter, ask for volunteers. I think many of us would like to now get really involved in seeing what we can help to do to get this next initiative passed. If that means that we need to go knocking on doors in Semiahmoo or something, let's at least start putting our heads together to see what we can do in preparation for that next vote.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Appreciate that. What we can do is, the next safety and security meeting is on April 7th at 2:30 at the SRA Center. And of course, anybody is welcome to come to a committee meeting, but we also Zoom it. Okay, so on the agenda that's posted on the website, there'll be a Zoom link. So you can click on that and you can participate in the meeting, and Commissioner Anthony is gonna be there. Of course, we'll be talking about other things as well. But you can stay informed, you can offer to volunteer on a particular area. Our committee is, per our charter, we're allowed 7 committee members and we're full. We can't have voting participation, but we can have volunteer participation. And we welcome that. So we'll make sure that we keep you apprised of because we meet quarterly, of when the meeting dates are, so that if you want to Zoom in, you want to volunteer for something, you can.
And if you have comments or questions that you want to go to the committee, please don't hesitate to send those questions or comments to one of the admin staff or myself. And we'll be more than happy to make sure they're forwarded on to each of the committees, Delia in particular, for her to answer to you, or if we can answer, we can try and do it as well. So the information source and resources is open for anything, so please don't hesitate.
So
Yes, sir.
it's Craig from Drayton Hillside. In Richardson.
Thank you.
So maybe this is just basic Washington voter information, but does that require a supermajority to pass the levy?
No.
No, simple.
Oh, okay, it's a simple majority. Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, thanks. So,
Are there other questions? Oh, yes, Tippy.
I have one, and it's not on fire.
Okay, Tippy Vaughn.
Yvonne St. Andrews Green Free.
Okay,
This is a question for the elections committee, and
okay.
I don't know if Suzanne's on or if she's still.
Yeah, she's still,
Okay.
yeah.
So I scoured the website trying to find information about member resolutions. And last year, we got a deadline when they should be submitted. But the rules didn't come out until after people had submitted member resolutions. So, and the rules were dramatically changed. And I thought that the rules were good. However, they did not give an opportunity for a con statement. There was a pro statement, but not a con statement. So what I'm looking for are specific rules for member resolutions, whether they be in the bylaws or in the election manual. And I couldn't find them.
Debbie, can I take that one?
Yes.
from you? I would be more than happy to, since I met Lori and Lisa and ourselves met with the elections committee this week. They're in the process of finalizing the timeline. They're in the process of finalizing all the rules for the amendments that are gonna come out. They learned a lot from last year. We've learned a lot from last year. There's gonna be different forms. It's gonna be very standard. So that It's easier for the staff to implement them into the ballots. We're doing a lot of, I won't use the word makeover, but, a lot of learning and a lot of, changes to stuff like that. From the things that we did last year and things that we heard from people in regards to what they wanted to see as well. So those are coming, but those also have to be looked at and approved by the board first, before they go out to everyone. So we're in the process of that. We're almost there.
Good to hear, thank you. Yeah, welcome. Any other questions? Looks like we're good then. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and thank you all so much for coming out and for your contributions.